Hi there, my name is Tim from Signagelive, and I wanted to take you through a quick overview of how we configure the Nexmosphere device and the light bar that you see running on the back of this screen right now. Now, the one that we have in here is actually a 300cm LED RGBW cable, or the lighting bar here. We do also have an experience controller from Nexmosphere, and I'll show you some videos of those as we go through as well. And those are the two devices that you need, as well as your typical traditional digital signage hardware. So a BrightSign in this case, and obviously Signagelive to run all of your content. Now, there is another one that we're going to be looking at later on down the line, which is this, the X-Wave, which is kind of the next generation on from the light bar that we're looking at here, which has far more control in terms of individual lights. But we're going to start off simple with the RGB, because that gives you kind of the overview basics of what we will look at today. So pairing this with Signagelive and their RTEs, or real-time events, we get the best of both worlds when it comes to configuring the content and the color and the scheme. So for example, if I go over here to my dashboard and then head over to the BrightSign device that we've got here, which is the one that's currently running the light bar, I can go over to the settings and then down to real-time events. Now, with the assistance of my colleague Marco, we've configured all of these in advance, so you can come and have a look at these. But as you can see, within here, we have pre-configured different content styles or color styles within this. So we've got red pulsing, blue solid, blue, red solid, all of that. If I go into each one of these, I can have a look at the properties. These are all configured based down to where the asset starts. So for example, when this blue image starts, we've configured that to display blue color. And in that case, we also have to enter in things like the baud rate, the parity, flow control, all of the bits and pieces. You'll get all of this information from Nexmosphere's page or our support documents. And once you've entered in the command, which again you'll find in Nexmosphere's documentation, that command will then prompt the asset. So once we've got that configured and we've got the range of different assets, and we haven't done all of them, there's a ton of different designs. Obviously with RGB, you can pretty much make any color across the board which you'd like to pair. So with that, obviously we've got some on-brand blues, we've got some yellows and whites, which we've got running on here as well. So once we've set that up within Signagelive and in the settings and within that real-time event, now the next section that we've got here is we can actually go down to the content drop-down, and within there we've got the playlist, and within that we can then go and create and edit our playlist which we'd like to deploy. So in this example, you can see all the content that's stored within my library. Now, the most important things about RTEs and the way that works with this lighting is, rather than attach it to an asset in a playlist, so let's demonstrate that. If I make a new playlist of content, if you're not familiar with this process, it's literally the process of taking the rotation of content that we want to see on the screen, putting it in that playlist, which will then deploy out to the players. Now, typically what we would do is double click on one of these assets and configure how that asset works. So do we want to change the condition, i.e. where those assets will play on groups of players, or the duration, etc. With RTEs, it's slightly different. So we have to pick that asset from our asset library, like this one, for example, corporate blue. And you can see now we've got this additional toolbar, which is real-time events. I can click on that, add in a new event from a template, and this was a blue one, so we'll go with a blue pulsing and hit OK. Now that RTE has been assigned to that asset, so regardless of where I send this asset, it will turn up. So this is the corporate branding blue. Let's actually go and open up the playlist of the one that's running on the screen behind me here. We're going to delete off the current content. Let's just get rid of all of these. Add in the corporate blue, double click on it, and we just want to go to the original file, add in the real-time event of LED pulsing, that's already there, and save. So now that that's been saved, the content that's currently running on the screen will be replaced with our corporate blue one video asset, and you'll see the RTE gets picked up. Now, the benefit of doing it this way rather than changing each asset is you can add this real-time event to an asset at the base level, and if you or a colleague or a team member goes and picks that same asset later on and deploys it on a different layout or a different schedule, that RTE will follow. So it's kind of pre-designed to always have that content change in there. So if I take you over here, I'm going to just go and grab the devices that are running this. So as I mentioned at the beginning, we have this. I'm just going to try and get it in frame if I can do. So this is a BrightSign HD4, so not the top of the range, but it is, you know, a kind of mid-level spec BrightSign. Within there you've got your power, obviously, HDMI and Ethernet, but then we've also got this USB cable. This USB cable then runs into the controller here, the Nexmosphere controller, which is the item that's kind of running and scheduling when the content will display on the screen. And that then goes through, and you can see we've got this output here, which goes into the light bar, which is currently designed to wrap around the behind of this screen. So that's all we have configured, which has taken us about 30 minutes to configure the whole thing for the first time. And now obviously that's put into the back of the screen. Whilst that's just loading up here, you obviously don't need to have this behind the screen. It could be any kind of design. So there's some really interesting concepts you could have about lift and learn. You could pair this with the ability to be able to lift up a device with an RFID chip. The RFID chip would then also trigger the content change. The content change would then trigger the light bar. So there's a lot that you can do in terms of experiential design without having to spend a huge amount of money or a huge amount of resource in building that out, and you can create some really incredible designs with this. So we'll give that a second here. In fact, whilst we're just waiting, let's go back to our dashboard, use the benefits of the dashboard here, and do a quick refresh. We can see on this, it's currently just updating the last of the content, and in the next few seconds here, we should see that content change over for us. And there we go. So now, as you can see, we've got the content change. That's just going to be the one asset that's now rotating permanently, but obviously it could be any range of content on there as well. And as you can see, it's pulsing, so it's got a slightly different command in comparison to what was previously there, which was all just solid light bars. And again, there's a whole range of different configurations that you can take from Nexmosphere and then put that within your assets and content within Signagelive. So that's a bit of a deeper dive on the light bar here and the BW connector on that one. So to be specific, it's product ID 44643 on their website. If you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. We'll do a video next on this X-Wave connector to see what we can do on top of that with the RGB lights. But if you've got any questions, feel free to reach out to us. Otherwise, we'll speak to you on the next one.